What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, let me start with the question you asked, which is why is Donald Trump, so quiet? What do you mean by asking that? Because I'm seeing here he's already making moves.
He's making moves. He's making appointments. So up until this afternoon, maybe an hour ago, he piped up on Truth Social saying that he was going to call for an investigation into potential manipulation prior to the election of Trump media stocks. But the fact of the matter is, Aaron, and in fact, when I was researching this particular segment, I actually Googled Trump, and the main story for Newsweek was, why is Trump not saying anything for 2 days? See, and he hasn't really said. You would be expecting this guy to be running off at the mouth. This is Donald J. Trump. He's now got every reason to crow. He's got every single reason to be, Donald Trump to the nth degree, flooding social media with his enunciations, with his plans, even repeating what he's been saying over the course of the campaign. It has been a radio silence, Aaron. And I have to tell you, I'm beginning to get the impression, I'm getting a vibe that I felt back in October of 2015, that I felt back in October of 2018 with Justin Trudeau and with Francois Legault. I, honest to God, think that Donald Trump didn't think he was going to win. I think, and no one was more surprised by that victory than Donald Trump. He was exhausted. He was shuffling around on stage. His last rallies were considered to be, an evening with the Walking Dead. And all of a sudden, he still, even as I speak to you, the count is going on. There's more and more of the map of the United States turning red on what was essentially a completely unexpected, I think on everyone's part, especially on the part of Kamala Harris, disastrous campaign by the Democratic Party. But I also have a suspicion, Aaron, that we are going to see perhaps a more restrained, more controlled Trump, if only because now, back in the day, it was, he was being propelled by very acquiescent lapdog media. Now he's got a bunch of billionaires walking around the White House. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. The list does go on. And I have a sneaking suspicion that even though, the 2025 project, it's going to be a military dictatorship, I think down the road you're going to see a lot of that get sanded down because in the end, billionaires want what's good for business, and business does not run on uncertainty. It doesn't run on chaos. I think you may see some how can I put it, token concessions to Trump in terms of legislation, but in the end, I think there's going to be a lot more of a leash put on this guy. And let's face it, he's being held together by Adderall and adult diapers. This guy is not the same Donald Trump who came down that escalator. Back in 2015, I really think you are going to see a more restrained Donald Trump. And when the extent of the victory has dawned upon him, I think the other lesson he'll be told, you know what, you got to look after yourself there, Mr. President, because if anything happens, we got J.D. Vance right over there ready to take over from you. So, that's my theory, but I have a sneaking suspicion that there is a lot of fear out there right now, and we're talking about, a wave of immigration. But I just have a gut feeling, Aaron, that the Trump, the nutcake Trump that we dealt with between 2016 and 2020, I'm not saying he doesn't exist. I'm just saying we probably won't be hearing from him that much anymore.
So, I'll tell you, Jim, for me, I'm thinking maybe the guy's just tired, right? He was doing day after day, night after night. So maybe, take a couple of days, soak it all up, bask in it, if you will, relax. And I can't imagine him changing it all. But maybe you're right. But that's my take.
Well, who knows? And maybe we're both of us whistling by a graveyard because we don't want it to happen again. But I just get a feeling if this had happened, even 4 years ago, we would have been talking about his posts on social media for the past 48 hours, and it has been relatively, like I say, radio silence from Donald Trump. From everyone, we've heard that he's appointed a chief of staff. You mentioned earlier in the show that he has appointed a real protectionist to run U.S. trade policy. But you know what? That's not entirely surprising. Quite frankly, if Harris had won, we'd probably be having the same conversation. protectionism is a mainstay of U.S. trade policy. But, you also raise a very interesting point when you say, here's Donald Trump spouting off about electric vehicles when the king of electric vehicles essentially was holding his hand through the election campaign. Do you really think he's going to follow through on that? Not entirely sure. Maybe I'm wrong, but I have a sneaking suspicion that when someone has even more money than Donald Trump, even more money, quite frankly, than the role of President of the United States, you may see a different administration. Not a good one. I'm not any less crazy, but a differently expressed administration for the next 4 years in the White House.
By the way, with relation to Elon Musk, who's now going to be part of this, I understand today I saw a story suggesting he's already involved in the discussions, negotiations with Ukraine.
He was supposed to create, I think it was America Corp, right? And when the deal was, and we thought this was all crazy, he is supposed to be creating a corporation that would be like Santé Quebec. This is going to be like America Corp. It's like this is like the day-to-day operation. This will be in charge because we all know what a great businessman Elon Musk is, especially if you're holding shares in Twitter.
Yeah, well, forget about Twitter. His shares in Tesla, he is now, I think just in the past 2 days, because of that win, I think I saw the number today, his own personal wealth, never mind his corporate wealth, his personal wealth is up $20 billion. So thank you, Donald Trump, for that. Yeah. Okay.
But, it's hit or miss. But like I say, I don't think we're going to see the same. If people are expecting a repeat of 2016 to 2020, I think you're going to be disappointed. There'll be lots of twists and turns, folks. Don't, stay tuned, as we like to say. But I don't think it's going to be the same gig we saw 4 years ago.
Yeah, you buy the part, like when I was talking with Amanda Lang, saying, this is actually Robert Lighthizer, is now his trade guy, who he had in his last administration, who's a bit of a hawk. At least this administration, our Canadian government, knows him. We dealt with him in the past, and that's an advantage for Canada than throwing somebody in there we'd have no clue about.
Absolutely, and don't forget, I was looking for a scrap to develop between the U.S. and a trade partner. It's going to be with China. Lighthizer was first hired by Trump to go after China's trade policies, and I think that is going to be a front and center priority for this administration.
All right, let's move on and talk about what's happening here. We had the provincial Liberals getting together this weekend. This is interesting because, of course, today we had Andre Pratt come out and saying that the Liberals would, in fact, beyond repealing Bill 96, they would basically enshrine Anglo rights into the Constitution. So I'm thinking, isn't this what we discussed a while ago with the leadership race where Charles Milliard said we need a new Constitution, and we all kind of said, no, we don't, now we do?
Well, maybe they figure that's what I found interesting is the two things that you've just mentioned right there. How would is even the Anglo support for the Quebec Liberals dropping that they have to go after Bill 96? This is not a front and center issue for Francophone voters, and quite frankly, the last I heard, the Quebec Liberal Party is still below 10% in terms of popularity with Francophone voters. Without that, they can say whatever they want. They can say they're going to give me $1 million every other day. It doesn't matter. They're never going to see the inside of power. However, is everyone keeping their powder dry because of this ridiculously protracted schedule? Where things don't really get underway until January, then we find out what the real face of the Liberal Party is going to be. For me, I think these pledges or these theoretical pledges, that's all note paper, that's all stenography, which may or may not apply down the road. I think the big story this weekend is going to be whether the youth wing hangs on to its we get our vote is worth 3 votes compared to your 1 vote. In terms of choosing the leader, the right now under the constitution of the party, the youth wing, under 25s, they get 33% of the vote for the leadership. So in other words, even if they're outnumbered by adults, each of their votes is worth theoretically 3 times as much. There are people who quite rightly think this is ridiculous and think it should be 1 vote, one person. So that is going to be very interesting because certainly that is going to have no small role to play in choosing the new leader. But once again, will it be an amicable dispute, Aaron, or do you think maybe, given that right now the Liberal Party as a political vehicle is up on blocks without an engine? Do you really think they're going to go at it hammer and tong for this particular version of the Liberal Party, or do you think maybe they'll just turn around, have a big love fest for everyone, say, look at us, we're all singing from the same hymn book. And that's why you should vote for us. I would have been a lot more impressed if somebody somewhere, when I haven't seen it in Francophone coverage, certainly the Gazette has focused on stuff for Anglos, but as I say, that is not what's going to win them the election. They have got to get out there and get Francophone voters, and right now, I am not seeing a whole heck of a lot that would make even a Francophone voter pay attention to what's happening this weekend, much less vote for this party.
Well, okay, so let me follow up on that by asking, we found out today endorsements now beginning to come in for Pablo Rodriguez. What do you make of that?
Sam Elkis. Remember Sam Elkis?
Yeah, sure.
Mayor of Kirkland. That's how long I've been around. But yeah, and he was a liberal. He was a liberal cabinet minister as well. That's really swell. In the end, ask me how the voters out in the Côte-Nord think about Pablo Rodriguez. Ask me whether he's turning heads in the gas bay. It's great to get endorsements from one particular era of the party, but right now, but by the time 2026 rolls around, whoever is leading that party is going to have to. It's going to be a matter of the party's survival. I'm not sure they'll form a government, but the fact that I think that the trick is not to get wiped off the map. And I'm telling you, even 2 years from now, I think it's going to be a real possibility. So it's great. Best of luck to Mr. Rodriguez. We'll see who else jumps in the race. But right now, I think the Liberals, this sort of in-house endorsement, this in-house, hat waving, is completely white noise to everybody else. And the problem is the Liberals have really got to make themselves known outside of, the shell of Montreal and the West Island. I know they're meeting in Lévis this weekend, but honestly, they are still referred to, and not that inaccurately, as the Liberal Party of Western Quebec. And I don't see that much right now, and it's going to change that.
I wonder, Jim, to your point, if it would be beneficial for them to actually have a little bit of internal dissent in the party, just to get a little buzz, right?
Absolutely. You're looking at this and you're saying, my God, with all due respect, and I'm not slagging the guy. I've seen Andre Pratt's name in the papers more now than when he was working for La Presse. You know what I'm saying? It's like this is like kind of crazy. He's sort of the point man on this, and it's just that there isn't that kind of zing. And you know what? Even when you can't bring yourself to get angry about the party, then you got a problem. If people are indifferent to you in politics, that's the death sentence right there. So if you're not rattling the cage somehow, positively or negatively, I think you got a really tough row to hoe over the next 2 years. And as I say, this ridiculous scheduling for their leadership contest is not doing them any favors.
Jim, before I let you go, I'm asking listeners today, it's a Friday. What do what's on your mind? What's your beef? What's your issue this week? What is it for you?
I think in the last 3 days, I've discovered, even though I should know better, I was really kind of coiled up over the whole Trump thing. And I'm realizing that if you look at it, we always, and I won't involve you, Aaron, but I'll say I'm to blame. A lot of times I amplify these fears, perhaps without any kind of basis in fact. But the fact is, life is too short. I was just talking to Dean, our producer, just before I came on. It's a beautiful day. There's a gorgeous sunset. Go out there, enjoy the weekend. The world will still keep turning, even though Donald Trump is in the White House. So everybody just take a big chill pill and have yourselves a great weekend.
Well said. James, have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too, bud.